From getting arrested for driving drunk to choking a fan unconscious, UFC fighter Jon Jones has done a bunch of controversial things that are talked about to this day. The light heavyweight champion might be an incredible fighter, but that doesn't mean he hasn't made mistakes. Let's talk about it. I have to start by talking about a seriously crazy story. Jon "Bones" Jones choked a fan until he passed out. Sounds crazy, but it's true. It all went down in April 2019. Jones had made his return after a doping ban, by the way, and he made his appearance at the FIBO fitness trade show in Cologne, Germany. And everything was okay until the fighter choked a fan unconscious. Okay, yeah, the fan did ask him. Apparently, being put in a rear naked chokehold by Jon Jones was a lifelong dream for him. But was it okay for him to pull his MMA moves on a random person who was totally untrained? Probably not. A clip of the incident shows Jones put the male fan to sleep with his chokehold before lifting his legs up to revive him quickly. The two then hugged in front of a group of shocked fans. Apparently, the dude was delighted to have his dream fulfilled. Okay, I get being a huge UFC fan, but this is just way too hardcore, even for me. But to each his own, I guess.
It's over, Jon.
It's over.
You came back?
It is over. Yeah, you know what, Joe? I want to take this time to thank Daniel Cormier for being my biggest rival and motivator. Daniel Cormier, guys.
Yeah, Jones is pretty tough outside the ring, but that doesn't even come close to when he's in it. Let's just say the man doesn't back down easy. Every fighter has to face defeat at some point in their career, even the incredible Jon "Bones" Jones. But his first loss didn't come without controversy, folks. Jones squared off with Matt Hamill at the Ultimate Fighter Season 10 finale in December 2009. He had just started to make some noise in the light heavyweight category after defeating Jake O'Brien and Stephan Bonner. The New Yorker was absolutely dominating the fight in the first round. He took Hamill down and started dropping some serious elbows. It looked like the fight was done and Jones had won, but referee Steve Mazzagatti stopped the fight. Everyone thought Jones was victorious, but he got disqualified at the last elbow, which was a 12-6. That's when a fighter drops an elbow straight down to a downed opponent. It's illegal because it hurts, guys. But clearly Bones wasn't too concerned with Hamill's safety. Regardless, Jones took this scandal and the loss he had to face with dignity. It really makes you think, what would have happened with Jones's career if it weren't for that first loss? Now let's talk about one of his controversial moments that pretty much changed UFC history. Remember the whole UFC 151 situation? Before 2012, there had never been a time in UFC history when a card had been canceled. On August 23, 2012, that changed. Jones had been scheduled to fight Dan Henderson for the UFC 151 light heavyweight championship title on the 1st of September.
Prostitutes. I beat you after a weekend of cocaine.
And prostitutes. Hey, wait.
Jeez.
I thought that first time was the first time you did cocaine. So wait.
Unfortunately, though, Henderson tore his MCL and had to bow out. The UFC was looking for a contender to replace him and finally found former two-time middleweight contender Chael Sonnen. But guess what? When Jones got to know who his opponent was, he declined. After talking to his team, he decided that he wouldn't have enough time to train and said no to fighting Sonnen. This had never happened before. So, of course, Jones got hate from all directions. He got flack from fellow fighters, fans, and even Dana White himself. It was pretty freaking crazy. In one moment, Jon Jones went from being one of the most popular and beloved UFC fighters to one of the most hated ones. I mean, come on, man. You can't just back down from a fight like that, especially in the UFC. But fighting or not fighting aside, Jones has also had to deal with some scandalous situations in his personal life, like that time he got arrested for a DUI. You ever had those moments in life where you just wish you could go back in time and undo what you did? Well, May 19th, 2012 was one of those days for Jon Jones. The UFC champ was driving his Bentley in Binghamton, New York at 5 a.m. when he smashed it into a utility pole. Yikes! And that wasn't even the worst part.
Yeah, Dominic did a tremendous job. Dominic, you have totally earned my respect, man. That was a great foot take. That was a great fight. I tell you what, I think.
Jones got slapped with a DWI charge and ended up getting arrested. The guy was the light heavyweight champ at the time, but that didn't matter. He still had to pay a fat fine of $1,000, put ignition interlocks on all his cars, go to a victim's impact class, and have his license suspended for 6 months. Ouch, that's gotta be annoying and embarrassing. Needless to say, fans and fighters were all over Jones for this. Everyone was making fun of him for doing the most quintessentially dumb celebrity thing ever. To his credit, Jones did apologize for what happened and promised he learned his lesson. Let's hope he did for his own sake. The man just doesn't have good luck with any kind of substance use. It always catches up to him, like that one time near UFC 200 when he was caught doping. So basically, Jones had this huge rivalry going on with Daniel Cormier in 2016. The two were supposed to have this epic rematch at UFC 200, one of the biggest shows the UFC has ever put on. But just 3 days before the fight in Vegas, the media was called to a press conference out of nowhere. And when Jeff Nowitzki, the UFC's head of athlete health and development, walked in, everyone knew some anti-doping drama was about to go down. And then boom, they announced that Jones had failed the drug test. Everyone in the room was totally shocked. The next morning, Jones and his team held this emotional press conference where they basically owned up to it and took responsibility for his screw-up. The UFC had to scramble to redo the fight card without Jones, since they stripped him of his light heavyweight title. So Cormier got moved down the card to fight Anderson Silva instead.
See what this shirt says? I'm Reebok. It says unbroken, baby. This team is unbroken. Let's go, baby. And still.
How happy were you that you were able to take him down, not just once, but several times in this fight?
It felt great. I told you, man.
And the main event ended up being a women's bantamweight title fight between Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes. Turns out Jones had taken some clomiphene and letrozole, which he said was from a contaminated sex pill. USADA tested it and found out he was telling the truth, so they gave him a shorter 1-year suspension instead of the usual 2-year one. That's still a big bummer for Jones though, and that was supposed to be the end of it. But guess what? More scandal followed. After serving his suspension, Jones came back to fight Cormier in the main event of UFC 217. At that time, Cormier had snagged the vacant light heavyweight title and was ready to settle things with Jones. So what happened? Jones came back like a freaking beast and knocked out Cormier with a nasty head kick. It was epic. Cormier was left standing there in tears while Jones celebrated with the championship belt. But his happiness didn't last long. Word got out that he failed yet another drug test. This time, it was because he was using an anabolic steroid called turinabol. He got stripped of the title for the second time in his career, and the fight result was changed to a no contest. We all thought he was screwed and was going to get hit with a 4-year suspension, but his team made a case to the USADA that he didn't know he was taking steroids and that he'd unknowingly ingested them. After a long arbitration and review process, the USADA decided to give him a 15-month suspension. The suspension was backdated to the date of his failed test. Crazy stuff, right? It just goes to show that even the best fighters can mess up and make mistakes. Well, there you have it. Those were Jon Jones' most controversial moments.